Bonjour, bienvenue sur le plateau d'Informatic News pour notre rendez-vous hebdomadaire, l'invité de la semaine qui reçoit les responsables des entreprises IT présentes en France. Et aujourd'hui, nous avons le plaisir de recevoir Sanjay Poonen, qui est CEO de Cohesity. Sanjay Poonen, good morning. Thank you for accepting our invitation. So you had your Catalyst EMA conference yesterday, and we're going to start talking about what you talked about yesterday, but in general, what was your feeling about that conference yesterday?
Thank you for having me on your show, and it's an honor to be here, not just with you, but also in Paris, France. It's one of my dear countries in Europe. I've been here probably 30 times in my life in tech. So yes, we had our Catalyst. We're doing a little bit like a Rolling Stones tour. We're not musicians, we're tech people, but we did one in New York City, Paris, and Singapore. So I took New York City and Paris, and I finished in New York City and then got on a plane, came here. We had a fabulous conference yesterday with many of our customers and partners. And then we also live streamed this to all of Europe at the same time. So there was a few hundred people in the room. Mm-hmm. Maybe 200-300 people in the room, and then thousands of people watching, and then there may be tens of thousands will watch the on demand, sort of like your show here.
Okay. At this conference, you announced a new enterprise AI strategy, a resilience strategy. Why do you think you need to not only protect the data, but also the all AI stack? You know, from the training data set, the vector database, and the whole thing. Why do you need to go further that protect just the data?
Yeah, if you back up for a second. Cohesity's mission has been to protect, secure, and provide insights to the data. We kind of think about this in those three stages. And protection is all about building that zero trust platform which got Cohesity started. We invented the way in which you could store, make that data, the platform immutable, and protect it from ransomware attacks. Security, we announced some important things yesterday. And third part is AI. But AI and agents can be used for good and can also be
for bad.
For bad, right? It's a little bit like that age-old debate about fire or electricity or the printing press.
Water.
Fire could be for good, but an arsonist could burn down a building. Printing press is good. Lots of good books have been printed. Some bad books have been printed. So we have to, I'm an optimist, and I believe that AI can have tremendous amount of good. It can make our lives more productive. I mean, none of us today, when we're driving, open up a paper map. We use GPS. AI should make our productivity, our ability to search, summarize documents, find information much faster. It should help us save lives with medtech and biotech advances. But agents can also be used in a way that might be either accidentally or intentionally harmful. For example, what if an agent maliciously or unintentionally, you remember they used to call that the fat finger delete. Someone hits the wrong key and data gets deleted. If an agent is deleting data, we come to the rescue. So what we announced in our defense posture in AI, a very strategic partnership with ServiceNow, where they have a product called the Agent Control Tower that can build, register, manage, secure, and observe these agents. If it detects an agent is doing something malicious, it sends us a signal, and then we recover the data from the last point in time when it was, because our backup and secondary data is just a time series index of all the data you've had. And we did a similar thing with Datadog. I expect many of the public clouds and security companies like CrowdStrike and Palo Alto to have. So that's playing AI on defense. We also made some advances in our AI on offense story. A few years ago when LLMs came out, we went to NVIDIA and Jensen personally approved an investment in our company. He picked only one company in our space to invest in. And we were able to build with NVIDIA's help a data product that can search all the data in our platform, especially unstructured data. You might have 100 million PDFs, and it builds a semantic layer vector database, what's called RAG, retrieval augmented generation. Mm-hmm. And we announced some advances there where that data can be a lake that integrates into data bricks, for example. So that combination of both playing AI and agent defense and playing AI offense is what we announced at the conference.
And so with this resilience AI strategy, are you anticipating problems, or do you see this problem occurring right now?
I think with in any technology, you have to be aware, like I said, that it will help us be more productive, but there will be also problems we have to anticipate. And we call it responsible AI. So we have to think about ways by which we help our clients and our customers take advantage of this in their enterprise or in their daily life. And we have some very powerful companies who are at the core of AI, NVIDIA, Google, to lesser extent Microsoft, Amazon, but they're also doing good work there. And then you've got OpenAI and Anthropic. Those 6 companies, and Mistral here, for example.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So many of these companies are at the advances of driving AI, and we want to take advantage of their technology, and we embed their technology or build on top of their platform, Cohesity. But we also have to be sure, in our area, which is protecting data, agents could actually do malicious things, either intentionally or unintentionally.
What are the biggest mistakes that companies thinking that they are cyber resilient doing?
We have a very nice...
Because I'm asking that question because you have that Cohesity cert and you're collecting all kind of incidents, so you know what's going on with your customers. So.
Yeah, you mentioned CERT, which is our cyber event response team. We have pioneered a very nice framework called the Cyber Resilience 5 Steps. And if you follow those 5 steps, you get sort of a nirvana state of security. It's a very good framework that we... Step 1 is protecting all your data. Step 2 is keeping things in a cyber vault. Step 3 is doing threat hunting. Step 4 is application recovery. And step 5 is data security posture management. So we walk through that, and we have some very savvy security practitioners who can help them. A couple of the things that I would point out, just don't have time to go through all the 5 steps, but step number 2 is something that I find a lot of customers not doing, which is to keep at least 2 copies of your data. Maybe your first copy is near your data center, and the second copy, which may be 30 days worth of copy, and then the second copy might be 6 months worth of data that's an archive. But your third copy needs to be in a cyber vault. What's a cyber vault? It's like a bunker, which is air-gapped, separated from your data center. So if something happens and all your data is hit, you have a third copy in a bunker that's separated from the network. And that could happen either because of a disaster, we're having wars right now and data centers are being affected, or it could be a cyber attack that completely takes down your data center. Then you have a third copy. So I'm surprised often.
So it's 1, 2, 3 rules.
Exactly, you got it. So, but that third copy needs to be air-gapped, and we call that bunker, that cyber vault, Fort Knox, which is the name of an American bunker.
Could you attack them with a drone?
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's a bunker that's safe. But typically, if you follow that analogy, those drones in the cyber world, are like a DDoS attack or something else. They typically get to your network. But if your network is disconnected from your bunker, they can't get to the bunker, because it's disconnected from the network. So it's very rare that your third copy that's air-gapped is also going to get affected. And if you really cared about it, you could have a 4th, 5th, and 6th copy too.
Right.
But at least 3 is important, right? You'd be surprised how many customers don't do that. So that's step number 2.
How many? Do you have an idea about?
I survey research,
like 50-50?
I would say 70% of our customers say that, but I don't know that they're actually doing a third copy.
Plus you have people saying they are doing it and
or
they're not.
Or they think they're safe or they're not doing it, or they think they have a cyber vault, but it isn't. So we think that that's a very logical, that step 2 is a very important step that all our clients should do, and we preach that, so to speak. Step number 4 is what you talked about, which is our cyber event response team. And there's an entire way in which you can practice application recovery, clean room recovery. And the best analogy I give for someone who's not in technology is like healthcare. My mom's a doctor, and I spend a lot of time, I'm on the board of directors of Philips. If you think about what happened during COVID, there's a couple of lessons that we could take away from the pandemic that relate to security. See, during COVID, if you came to me and said, I'm never going to get the pandemic, I'd say, that's great. You have fantastic immunity. I wish I was like you.
I wouldn't say that.
Right? But if someone said that. The more important question is not, are you not going to get COVID? The question is, if you got COVID, how quickly can you recover?
Right.
You want to be back in a day or a week, not a month or have to go to the hospital. That's the more important question. So in our world, recovery is just as important as detection, maybe even more important. So that's the first lesson. Secondly, during the pandemic, we did a lot of testing. You wanted to get on the plane, you had to test. You got off the plane, you test. You wanted to go into a particular building, you test it. And the same thing applies in the way in which we think about data. And the way in which you think about the entire aspect. We call it a digital jump bag or clean room recovery. So in our world, we're always looking for sleeper cell malware in data, right? And typically these sort of like a disease, what does a virus need to propagate? It needs oxygen, right? Same way in our world, this malware needs compute, and then it starts to spread. That's the way in which it works. It's the very same principle. So in step number 4, both the technology and then we have a services team, that's the one you talked about, a cyber event response team, acts like an incident response team to help our customers with best practices. And then we also work very closely with the big incident response teams like Mandiant. Kevin Mandia built a company called Mandiant. They sold the company to Google. Kevin's on our board. He looked at all the companies in that space and found that Cohesity had the best technology. And typically I talk to him when there's a major event that happens in the world, especially in the United States, to find out what our posture needs to be. Well, his firm, Mandiant, is now part of Google, and they have a big incident response team. Palo Alto Networks, another big cybersecurity company, also has an incident response team called Unit 42. So we work very closely with them, and then there's also incident response teams inside Accenture and PwC, and also there's very local countries may have their own incident response teams. That's how we tend to work.
Okay. Well, the thing is, if you are thinking that way, you have to think in a way that you're always in a pandemic state. And, you know, the company are thinking that everything will be fine and that we won't have any problem. But then you have to think the other way, that we are in a pandemic state and we have to take all the measure to block all the problems that could attack the companies.
Yeah, I think that's the right posture to take, which is
not
be
great.
Paranoid. Not panic.
Yeah.
But Andy Grove, former CEO of Intel, said only the paranoid survive.
Yes.
So you don't panic. There's a difference between paranoid and panicking. You don't panic. It's a little bit. I think in security, you have to be like a duck, right? The duck is paddling really hard underneath the water, but you're calm on the outside.
Yeah.
We cannot. If we're panicking, then it creates chaos. But we have to work really hard. Both with technology, but technology helps us make the world safer, and that's why being in cyber, I've been in 15 years in the security industry, and before that I was in the applications and analytics industry, both at Informatica and at SAP. So I watched this industry over the last 20, 25 years, and in security, you're always learning new things, and you're teaming with other players. So we have a very good partnership with companies like Palo Alto and CrowdStrike, and now Google's bought Wiz. And many of our CEOs, we talk frequently at cyber events. We also help governments shape their cyber strategy. So the U.S. administration released a cyber strategy last week. We were involved in helping shape that.
Well, it's a pretty simple document. I think it's about 7 pages.
It's intended to be high level because you don't want a long verbose document, but the framework, those 5 points, are important 5 points you can kind of expand on. And we work the same way with UK, France, Germany. I think of the NATO-friendly countries and ones who are democracies have to worry that the attacks we've seen in the United States and many European countries have seen. You think about the retailers in the UK last year. Japan got hit with the breweries. Many of these attacks are very similar to the ones we've seen in the US. So I think between US, France, UK, Germany, Israel, India, Singapore, all of these countries, if we can find a way to share cyber intelligence information, and I think we can keep the world safer.
Okay. Ransomware is one of the biggest problems that in the security field, and the ransomware group are more and more attacking the backup systems, because if you attack the backup system, then you will attack the primary system, and then the company wouldn't be able to save the data from the backup system because it's corrupt. Do you think the backup is becoming the most critical point of failure in these companies? As
it relates to data, yes. I would say because it's your last line of defense. It's a historical copy of everything you have. Backup and secondary data is just a time series index of everything you have. And as you said, right, if you can attack backup data, it's all the historical data, you're probably going to damage the company even more than if you just attack primary data. So for that reason, this area has moved from a storage topic, how do you store data, to a security topic in the last 5-7 years. And we are at the forefront of driving that. In the way in which Cohesity was born was as a zero trust platform, built for that security and cloud era. But now I think you're now in a new era where AI is at the front of what you can play offense and defense. So I think the notion of how things are done in a modern world for hybrid and multi-cloud, for a modern type of threat vector, cybersecurity and AI, that's the confluence of where we sit, and it's incredibly exciting.
At the point where we are now, do you think AI is playing more for the good guys or the bad guys?
I think the world is a lot more focused on how it helps for the good. I mean, we've not yet seen a major cyber attack that's driven by an agent that's taken out a big company, or but a lot of these are sort of like attempts, like drones that are automated, that are attempting to do it. We haven't seen anything major as yet, but we have to be aware. Today, I think the big debate about AI is how is it going to affect jobs. There's a lot more debate about, is it going to affect jobs? Are people going to lose their jobs?
It's already happening.
It's a legitimate concern that we have to work through. But I think it's the same way that you think about other things in society. You know, the steam engine, as it became more locomotive and electric, and then planes. Yes, it displays people who maybe were driving horses. Mm-hmm. And everything in society, my view is, over the time in the Industrial Revolution, and now in the Internet Revolution and the AI Revolution, we have to, as a society, keep moving up in our skill set. If your only value add 40 years ago was you were a spell checker, you were going to get displaced by a word processor. If your only value add is you can synthesize documents, well, LLMs can do that fairly well. So as a society, or if your only value add is you drive a car, self-driving cars are going to impact that. So as a society, I think we have to all learn how to evolve into higher and higher level skills, which there will be, I think now, the productivity of AI will help us garner. So I'm an optimist, and hopefully this increases productivity and new types of jobs open up, as opposed to affecting. But some of the existing jobs in certain economies have to evolve.
So you just think of AI as a new technology cycle, nothing different in nature?
It has a lot more impact. It's not just any technology cycle. There was not
something different.
It's very different in the sense that this one, unlike the cloud or the internet or the PC, has much more impact on jobs, for sure. I'm not at all underestimating that. But I do think we have to be adept at finding ways to adapt and use that to our advantage. I mean, the way I describe it to my team, it's like a tsunami coming at you, right? If you have something coming at you, you can either let it hit you or you can ride it like a surfer, right? Mm-hmm. Some of the best waves are what surfers like to.
It depends on the height of the wave, right?
Exactly. Hopefully it's not too high. Yeah. But some of these big waves are what surfers look forward to. So for our own view of it, I don't think Claude, the Anthropic code generation tool, is going to allow you to build a Cohesity overnight. I mean, if you ask it, build a Cohesity, it's going to take, there's a lot in our technology, which is security, it's an infrastructure, data management. We invented many of these things 10, 12 years ago, and the founders built incredible tech. But if we leverage it well, a lot of our code will start getting generated and built by Claude, and that's what we're doing. About 30 to 40% now of the code that my team builds is being driven by Claude.
Really?
Yeah, and it's tremendous.
Because it's been just in the market for 1 year, maybe?
We were one of the first to adopt it. And I've always felt like...
So in just 1 year, 30 or 40% of the code you are producing is...
The first form of it is in Claude. So I'll give you another example. In a lot of what we do, we build connectors to connect to source systems to ingest that data. Mm-hmm. A connector is a very repeatable set of code.
Right.
So we applied for a patent.
And there is no much innovation in that. I mean,
it's like a pipe,
right?
So when we saw LLMs, we applied for a patent to be the first company that could use LLMs to generate code for connectors in the backup space, right? Hopefully we'll get the patent. So now a lot of my connector development is through code generators. Because if you think about connecting to an Oracle database, there's not a lot of difference between connecting an Oracle database and a SQL database. Similar type of code. So we use now a robot to build the first draft of the new connector, and then we can take that. It's not finished code. We're not ready to check that in and ship it. But the engineer now has got enormous productivity. Something that was taking 6 months now takes 1 month. Something that was taking 12 months now takes 2 months. 6 times more productive.
What about the quality?
It's a first start. You should not use it as the final version of the copy. It's a little bit like, I'm sure you're a very good writer. The first draft of your document should be generated by an LLM. Then you can still edit it, perfect it, but it's a beautiful first draft. So I always feel the same way with coding, right? Think about coding. It'll fix the bugs. In coding, you might miss a place where there's a syntax error. All of those things are fixed. But that's not the value out of an engineer's brain.
Right.
They design it, and they take the code, and then they have to refine it. But all of our best engineers, for example, you've met Mohit, our founder. He's one of the best coders I've ever met. I've asked him, how do you think about Cursor? He uses it all the time. And he was one of the best software engineers at Google. So when you look at some of the best engineers whom I've admired in my life, how they are using AI coding tools, it's dramatically changing. And so I think this vibe coding techniques are something that all software companies should be taking advantage of.
Going back to the announcements of what you made, at the occasion of Catalyst EMEA, you announced the DSPM capabilities. So it's about posture. Could you explain what is that? And plus, do you think that companies using that kind of capabilities discover that they have more sensitive data that they are thinking they would have?
Yeah, so the way to think about security posture management of either data or AI, those are two different things we can talk about, is it does a discovery of all the data assets you have, like an inventory, and then it could tell you things about those, let's say, documents. Are those documents even being used? A lot of documents are sitting in SharePoint or OneDrive or filers, never being used. Maybe you want to delete them. Okay, do those documents have sensitive information, as you pointed out? Personal information, credit card information, social security numbers, all those types of things. You might want to have a highly classified way in which you approach that documents. For example, you may want to back those up first. And that's the integration between a DSPM tool and a backup tool like our secondary data. So we were able to embed one of the best engines for DSPM from a company called Syra, a fantastic Israeli company. And we build that engine into the Cohesity DSPM offering so that you can discover, scan, classify that, that sensitive information, and then you can inform a backup or a protection policy in our platform. And that's a very powerful capability that now our customers have wanted.
You are also integrating what we call identity resilience. It's a company called Semperis.
Another good Israeli company, yeah.
Is it? Okay. Do you think identity system with Active Directory is like, the biggest example, is one of the biggest point of failure or attack?
Yeah, I would say that our view is identity is maybe even more important than some of the data workloads like virtual machines. When your Active Directory goes down, you don't have the internet, okay? You don't even have your servers and the internet. So Active Directory, Entra ID, Okta, Ping, we have or have plans to build an identity resilience capability for all of those. Now for Active Directory, that first one, the best engine for doing what's called forest recovery is Semperis. They do it really well. They've been doing it, and they have not just a way of doing recovery, but they have a detection mechanism that detects something because they put an agent on the controller of Active Directory. So for Active Directory, these folks have done an incredible job. For just that component, we've decided to embed their engine. It's a Cohesity identity resilience solution, but for Active Directory, we use them. And then we've built out ourselves Entra ID and plan to build out Okta and Ping and so on and so forth so that we have a comprehensive solution where it's just another workload that we protect. Just like virtual machines or databases, you should think about identity. So I think the future of resilience and workload coverage is data, that's virtual machines, databases, NAS files, and so on. Identity, things of those kinds that I talked about, and applications. And you could almost break out identity to be human and non-human identities. So in the future, non-human identities are going to be agents. And that's why in our agent resilience infrastructure, we not just announced this partnership with ServiceNow, we announced our intent to build out the entire data protection strategy or agent protection strategy for the agent stack. So for example, one of the components that people often use in an AI application is a vector database like Pinecone. We were able to build a Pinecone backup and recovery solution really fast. How do we do it? With an AI coding technique. So something that would have probably taken us 6 months, we're able to do in a few days, in a few weeks. And I think you're going to see an entire infrastructure supporting not just human identities, which is Active Directory, Okta Entra ID, but also non-human identities in the future.
So I'm thinking of Cohesity using AI. What you were doing in like 3 years, you're going to do it in 1 year. So it's like the acceleration is absolutely incredible with AI.
I think it's going to dramatically. That's how I advise our engineers.
But do you think these CIOs can keep up with this technology evolving that rapidly?
They will pace the absorption of our technology at similar paces to what they can do today. So we do 2 releases per year in our on-premise world and about 4 releases in the cloud world. That's the pace. Mm-hmm. But I want more innovation in those releases, right? That's the way I think. So they may be able to absorb that product only twice a year on-prem, 4 times a year. But imagine if in that release, that every twice a year, there's more content, there's more capability. They'd love that. So from our standpoint, when customers give us feature requests, if we can respond more quickly, we're going to be an innovative company. See, what drives Cohesity is in our market, it's a very competitive market, we have the best product. And we win the majority of the time because of the best product. Okay? So if we can keep innovating, but you can't rest on your laurels of being the best product, you have to constantly innovate. Mm-hmm. And I've been somebody who's really loved innovation, and I think that this now creates an opportunity for us to do absolutely new innovation at a new pace of speed that I've never seen before.
Companies are using more and more SaaS application, and in that kind of model, they are thinking that the vendors is taking care of everything, including data, but there is like the share responsibility between the vendor and their users, and they're thinking that they're going to take care of everything. Don't you think that's going to be an issue more and more?
Yeah, I think it's a very astute point that you make. You take probably the biggest SaaS application everyone uses, M365, Microsoft 365 right. Office. Yes, if Office goes down, you're dependent on that data, which is in Azure. So many of our customers expect us to protect M365 alongside identities and sometimes even protect it on-prem. So take the data from Office 365 into an on-prem location where their emails and their documents, or back it up from Azure into AWS, or back it up into another tenant in Azure. So we have a variety of solutions around M365 that make us very strong. And then the same thing will apply to Google Workspace, to Salesforce, Jira, ServiceNow, those SaaS applications, Workday. And some of those applications don't have as much data, but we are focused on all the SaaS applications and protecting all of them.
Mm-hmm. So I suppose you met a lot of French customers yesterday. Could you talk a little bit about the French company using Cohesity, in what sector they are, and also I suppose you realize that for the last 2 or 3 years there is a big concern about digital sovereignty. How do you answer that? And because Cohesity is a mid-sized company, I suppose, and doing a very technical thing. But the thing is, you are partnering with, the big cloud vendor like AWS, Google, Microsoft. And is this a concern for your customers?
Yeah, a lot of questions inside that. We are very fortunate. We have a little under 1,000, I think 700-800 customers in France, and in Europe, we're very strong. We are now, the new Cohesity is a much bigger company with 50% of its revenue international. 2 years ago, 80% of our revenue was in North America. We were much smaller. But with the acquisition of Veritas, we're a much bigger company now, right, with a very strong, and our number one vertical in almost every market, including France, is financial services. So some of the largest banks here are our customers. They rely on us for cyber resilience. I had the opportunity to meet some of the tech executives at those banks in the last few days, and they're delighted with our direction of where we're taking the company. Public sector is typically the second biggest, and we have a lot of good public sector customers here. And then you start getting to other verticals like telco, healthcare, and in the US, technology companies, like NVIDIA and so on. And our job is to make sure that those customers, as they give us feedback, we're able to understand what areas they want us to continue to innovate that are either specific to their industry or horizontal across all industries. Typically, security tends to be a fairly horizontal topic that is common across all industries, from financial services all the way to healthcare. So you're protecting a bank on one side, you might be protecting a hospital.
Some sectors are more concerned about security than others. They are spending, from, I suppose, from the less to the more. I mean, it's from like 2% of the CIU budget to 6 or 7%. So there is a big diversity.
That is true. And the banks typically tend to spend a little bit more, and as a result, their defenses are a little better. But some of the schools and educational systems in the US, maybe here too, some of the hospitals, they don't spend as much and they're more prone, especially to things like identity attacks. So that's true. But everybody needs to have a security posture that's alert. Okay. The second part of your question was the cloud. And that's true. I think there's, especially given some of the, kind of the aspects of tariffs and so on, we're seeing a lot more interest in sovereign cloud, local service providers. We had Atomitia, they're one of the service providers here. We have many good service providers in Europe. And also the effects by some of the US companies to build sovereign clouds that we are, closely aligned with. And we think that that's going to happen in many of the major countries in Europe and in the Middle East and in Asia. And because we are kind of like a Switzerland company, we're not on-premise. We work very closely with Dell, HPE, Cisco, IBM. Some of those companies like IBM and Cisco and HP are investors in our company. And then the cloud, we work with the cloud companies too.
When you say Switzerland company, you mean neutral kind of
very neutral,
company?
Exactly. You got the right point. So we don't have we're the only company that has one code base that can run on-premise in a private cloud on top of HPE or Cisco or Dell hardware. Or in the cloud on AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle, or in the private cloud of a local service provider in France, and it's the same code base. All of our other competitors have multiple code base, very complicated tech stack, and that allows us a lot of flexibility to work with some of the pioneering companies or service providers and who seek to play as the sovereign cloud solution. And I think both local service providers and the telcos, we have some of the telcos also in France and other countries as our major customers. They will also provide sovereign cloud services. So how this will play out in France and Germany and UK time will determine. But I do think the side effect of all these tariff discussions has been every country is now, I think, in Europe and in Asia, it's a wake-up call to build a sovereign cloud. One CEO of a famous European company, I won't mention who it was, told me, whether you like tariffs or whether you like the current US administration, it has woken us all up to build sovereign clouds in our countries. So if that's the way in which every country needs to operate to take care of their data in their own country, we will help that happen. From our perspective, we don't care if the data is going to sit in AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle, or in a local service provider in France.
You mentioned Veritas with the acquisition of Veritas technology a few months ago, or I can't remember.
We announced it 2 years ago,
yeah.
And then we closed it about a year ago.
So what's going to happen with the Veritas customer? Are they going to migrate to Cohesity technology, and how long will it take, and how much will it cost, and how does that work?
Yeah, great questions. First off, the M&A.
So right now, for example, in the French market, what's the share of Veritas customer and Cohesity customers?
Now, a year later, it's all blended. It's hard for me to tell, but I'll tell you when we acquired the company what it was, because now it's hard. It's all blended.
Sure.
It's fairly hard.
Yeah.
But we acquired the company. We were about 4,000 customers globally of Cohesity and about 9,000 customers of Veritas globally. I don't know what those numbers were inside France.
Worldwide.
Worldwide, right? So maybe some similar split in the French base too.
So it's double size of your market.
Exactly. What Veritas had was a very strong customer base, okay, especially in international markets.
30 years old.
And what they didn't have was the next generation tech that we had. Now, what Cohesity had was the world's best platform, which was supersonic for cyber recovery. Nobody beat us in speed of recovery. NetBackup was a data mover that we said, you could move that data onto our platform. They didn't have an underlying file system platform that we acquired. It was just the data mover. So the first thing we did was we put the NetBackup data mover on top of our platform. And we finished that work within 6 months, and it's been beautiful. So now you have the ability to run net backup and write data onto our platform, and you get the benefit of all of this. And then when you're ready to move from that data over to ours, we acquired a small company that is a migrator, builds a migrator utility to make that migration from one data mover, the older one, to ours, supersonic, really fast, okay? So you could think of it like a sandwich where the bottom of the sandwich, or the burger, is our file system, is our platform. The top of the burger is the common UI. It's called Helios for both.
Yeah.
In the middle, you may have these two data movers, Net Backup and Data Protect, that came from Veritas and Cohesity. But we'll migrate you to the modern one whenever you're ready. And we've continued to invest engineering to keep Net Backup alive and well. I've got hundreds of engineers making sure, because for many of those customers, it's going to take them some time to move. But we do want all of our customers modernized in due course to the next generation. And that's something now. And then from a commercial perspective, we're not going to charge you anything. You're using the older data mover. You want to move the new data mover. You just renew with us for that common terabyte of data that you are backing up. You get the new car for free. Okay? So you just have to pay us for the renewal of data protection for that terabyte of data over a multi-year period. And you can move from Net Backup to Data Protect for free. So that's a beautiful proposition to a customer. In many cases, they have to keep Net Backup there because many of their 10, 20 years of data has been written in that format, right? So it's much easier now if you are a customer, if you're considering modernizing, to go with us than to think about going to the competition, because it's going to be really tough it's like trying to, swim across the Seine River without a bridge. We're building the bridge to help you get across the river.
So in a way, it's they will be able to use their own technology with and because you made the integration with the Cohesity platform.
Exactly, right? And now they can migrate their data protection strategy to the next gen seamlessly. So we have some large banks that are working with us in this migration process. And I've been really pleased with the progress we're making. I think that acquisition we did of the migration utility tool, it was a London-based company, has been a fabulous addition to our portfolio.
And I suppose this tool helped them to automate the migration.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a group of people who actually left Veritas, created a tool for migration, and we snapped them back in.
Clever. Yeah. If you look at the Gartner quadrant,
Magic Quadrant,
quadrant, of course you are on the right-hand side.
Visionary.
Right. With some competitors, Rubrik, Commvault, and Vim. Of course you are the best of the force, but how do you compare and differentiate with these other three
Very good question. This is a crowded space. This is like a tennis tournament with 64 players, and then there's a final four, the four you mentioned.
Well,
and there's typically two other legacy players, IBM and Dell also, that
Yes.
you should consider in the space. IBM, by the way, a few years ago decided to not invest heavily in their product, but partner with Cohesity. So they actually are our friend in this space. They OEM our technology. They have a product called Defender Data Protect, which underneath the covers is Cohesity. So we consider them a friend. Dell is a more legacy player. But we can also partner with Dell by using their technology, even if we, in many cases, like Dell servers and Dell object storage, and in some cases, even Net Backup runs in data domain. So I consider Dell, even though they're a competitor, reasonably friendly. Those other three are competitors. How do we differentiate? I think you've interviewed Mohit. He built the world's best tech, and even some of the more modern players who came after us, like Rubrik emulated the same tech. He invented it. It was a zero-trust platform built in a hyper-converged era for security in the cloud. No one had done that before. And the thing that differentiated, this is the reason I joined the company, when I asked Mohit, why do customers pick Cohesity over any of those three? He mentioned a few S's, speed and scale. And to this day, those two S's are the top two S's. I would add three more S's today that also differentiate us. The depth of our security capability, second to none. Smarts, we talked about AI, including the work we're doing in NVIDIA. And 5, simplicity. I mean, this is a beautiful, simple user experience that feels like an iPhone as opposed to that old phone you may have started in the 1990s using.
He used the image of the iPhone
exactly.
a lot.
So it's an iPhone type of experience. It's a modern, simple, beautiful user experience. So speed, scale, security, smarts, and simplicity. 5 S's. Those are the reasons we typically win.
Okay. Maybe one more question. If you look, if you think about data, which is like, the gold or the oil of everything in the digital world, you have companies like yours doing protection, and you have companies like Snowflake or Databricks exploiting the data for AI. Do you think we're going to do more and more partnership between these two to integrate this to protect and exploit?
Very good question. And as I hinted earlier, one of the major announcements at our Catalyst conference this week was that partnership integration to Databricks. It doesn't have to be just Databricks. It could be Microsoft Fabric or Snowflake. So think of that platform, what we just described, which is supersonically equipped for recovery, being a platform of data. And it's now, we can have a catalog. Catalog is just like an index with some sample data sets. We found a way to tie our catalog. So Gaia is the name of our AI semantic layer and application. It's also the name of our catalog. So we have Gaia app and a Gaia catalog. The catalog can tie to the Unity catalog of Databricks. Now, Databricks could be the target or could be the mother data lake. We are a feeder lake into them. So the big aha moment was to move from this being viewed as just a backup and storage layer to a lake that can feed Databricks. And we don't need to be the mother of all lakes. We could feed them. Or if customers want to take Databricks data and back it up here to us. But Databricks may not be the only lake in the enterprise. There might be Snowflake, there might be Microsoft Fabric. The intent is we want all of that data as it gets backed up and older to be on our platform. And then you could use that platform as a lake for analytics. And that's a fantastic idea. That was not possible before some of these incredible advances in AI. And we've learned a lot over the last 3 years that allowed us a combination with NVIDIA to make this now a useful aspect. So that's why if you look at we go back to the mission of our company, protect, secure are the first 2 things. That are very defensive posture, secure. Third verb is insights, provide insights. That's an AI aspect of it. There, I expect many of these companies who are powerful data companies to become our natural friends. Databricks, Snowflake, Palantir, Microsoft Fabric, AWS Redshift, Google BigQuery, all of those will become clients or targets of where we can send our data to.
So you're going to be in the center of everything, pretty close.
I mean, I don't want to be presumptuous.
No,
because
the way you are
that's our vision,
things,
is to certainly allow customers. It's very presumptuous of any company. We're the market share leader in the space of all those people. We're market share. But as you get bigger, but the goal is to be a platform. Yeah, I mean, the advantage of our company is it's a platform. You build on top of it, you feed other people. You never know who's going to be the center of the universe. It could be us, it could be Databricks. We don't care. We want to be an important planet in the universe, whether we're the sun or the planets. But among these tech players, NVIDIA, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Oracle, OpenAI, Anthropic, Databricks, Snowflake, whatever have you, I think you'll start to see Cohesity as an important player in that, in our sphere in data security. There are important other security companies in other spheres. In network security, it's Palo Alto. In endpoint security, it's CrowdStrike. In data security, it's Cohesity. So that's how we think about our mission. That's how we think about our goal, and we're making good progress.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered pretty much. Sanjay Punand, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.